Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. So it is week 2 of the Three Rivers Pantry challenge, and we are doing it as a no spend challenge. So I have some leftover rice from a previous dinner. It's about a cup and a half, 2 cups of rice. I am going to make fried rice. I have 2 eggs and I am putting in ham. This I came back in January of 21. So I'm going to use the juice and the ham off of that. I'm going to use peas and carrots in it. And this is just the container I keep the water off my vegetables in. And I leave it in the fridge, so when I want to cook rice or pasta or anything like that, I'll use this water instead of plain water. Just add some flavor to my pasta, my rice, whatever I'm cooking, mashed potatoes, whatever it may be. And if I need any liquid to go into the meal, I would use this instead of water, or for some recipes that it calls for. So I'm going to get started making my fried rice. So the first thing I'm going to add is some butter just to warm up my fry up my eggs. This is shelf-stable butter that I'm using, that I canned up myself. Wish I would have made it myself, but no. So I'm just going to get that. And I did just mix up my eggs, and I want to get them cooked first. I know I've seen one person do it where they took the yolks of the eggs and added that, coated the rice with that, and then cooked it. I guess if you want to do it that way, you can. This is the way I do it, and it just, I think it just goes further that way. So the rice is already cooked, so it's not necessary to you know, do that, I don't think. Anyway, turn this up a little bit, get this fried up. Now I'm just gonna take my eggs. This dish comes together so fast, so easy. You could probably have it ready as long as your rice is done in like 10-15 minutes. So I've got my eggs here, and I'm going to take them out of the pan and just put them into a little container while I get the rest of it cooking. Whoops. So I'm just putting them in the pan, and I'll just set them off to the side while I get the rest of it cooked. In my pan, I'm going to add some onions. These were out of the freezer. I'm going to add like a handful of onions in there. Get them going. So I've got my onions a little bit brown, and I'm going to add to them some different sauces, whatever you like to add. This is teriyaki. I'm adding some Worcestershire sauce. Just trying to use up what is in my fridge. Some soy sauce. And then I'm going to put the liquid from my ham in. Just the liquid for now. Let that all go in and let that come down a little bit. And to this, I'm going to add in my rice. Get my rice down in here, get that warmed up. Sorry. My setup is kind of tight here. So I'm going to add in my rice now. And this rice is left over from another dish that I did probably 2 nights ago. And get all my rice in and get that warmed through. And then I'll add the rest of the ingredients, and it's as simple as that. And I'm also adding in a touch of toasted sesame seed oil. Just a little bit. About a teaspoon, I guess. This would be a nice, I don't know if you saw that red down in there. That was a packet of duck sauce that I found in my fridge from Chinese takeout that we haven't been to in a while. I can't remember the last time. It's been a while. But it was in the fridge. Using up the things that I found. And yeah, get it all eaten. Sauces don't really go off. Not if you got them in the fridge. So I'm just going to let this cook down, and then I'm going to bring you back when I add in my vegetables and meat, and then it's pretty much done. Okay, so the ham juice is pretty much evaporated out of there, and I'm going to add in my ham, my meat that's going in, and any of the fats that might be in the jar, get all that in there. I'm going to add in my peas and carrots. Make sure I get every single last one. No peas or carrot left behind. And last but not least, I'm going to add in my egg back in there and get it all mixed up. Seriously, that is as easy as can be. Get all that mixed up and it is ready to eat. So last but not least, I'm going to add a little bit of pepper flakes. Just a few. We like things a little bit spicy here. And those are from last year's garden. I just keep filling up the jar that I dehydrated in my $5 dehydrator. And that's it. That is dinner tonight. Usually I try to make enough for leftovers, but nothing's going to be left over from this. This is just enough to feed us tonight. And I'll put maybe bread or something with it. I have some of the noni bread left, so that I will put with this meal tonight. And that is my pork fried rice, ham fried rice, whatever. And this dish can be done with whatever kind of meat you like to use. Turkey, chicken, beef, whatever it may be, sausage. Whatever kind of meat you like, it can be done with that. So this week's sweet treat is pumpkin cookies. Now, I got this recipe from Cooking with JB. She actually made these on her channel, and it's funny because my husband's nickname is JB. So it was just like it was speaking to me, and I had enough ingredients to make one batch. So I have a thing of Crisco here. I found some pumpkin in the freezer. I have one egg that goes in. I have some pumpkin spice that I found in the back of the cabinet, which I don't use very often. And then my sugar, salt, baking soda, everything I have. So we're gonna make this. So into my mixer goes my Crisco, which I don't use very often. I was surprised to find it. I have it, but I was just surprised to find one package that was open from a 3-pack, and I had one left. So it was like meant to be. In my mixer goes with the sugar, and I'm just going to cream this a bit just to soften that up and get it sort of started to incorporate and cream together. So now that I have those two creamed together, I'm going to start adding my pumpkin in, and this is where my first mistake came in. Now, I thought the pumpkin was sort of on the room temp side, but as you will see, it was kind of on the cold side. It starts to separate or curdle the mixture, sort of, but I kind of put it together in the end. So remember, bring your pumpkin if it's frozen, because that's where I got mine from. It was frozen. Bring it up to room temp. In my case, I should have just put it in the microwave for like 10 seconds, because my kitchen is freezing. So now I'm going to measure out and mix together all my dry ingredients. So my flour, my baking soda, and my salt, and my pumpkin pie spice. Yeah, don't measure things like me. As you can see, you should really level off your flour and be precise with it. I'm really not. So this is how I do it. Do as I say and not as I do, kind of thing. So in goes my pumpkin spice, and then my salt, and I'm just going to take my little measuring teaspoon and just mix it all together. You can use a whisk. Do whatever you like to do. I don't like to wash dishes that often or that much, so I'm using what I already have dirty. So I just take my teaspoon and just mix it all in together. Make sure it's all distributed throughout, and then I'm just going to add it to my Crisco, pumpkin, sugar, vanilla, because I did add vanilla, and my egg mixture. As you can see how it kind of looks like it's almost separating. But once I put the flour in, it comes out really good. I did end up mixing it good and thoroughly to make sure all the flour was mixed in. And because this KitchenAid, sometimes your flour gets stuck in the bottom of your bowl, so I made sure to scrape down every so often and make sure my flour got well incorporated. And even though this was a really liquidy mixture, before I added the flour, you want to do it on a low speed because it will puff everywhere. So this is what the cookies look like after everything is mixed together and it's ready to be baked off in the oven. So I am using a cookie scoop just to make them sort of uniform. So I'm just going to take the batter and put them onto the cookie sheet. I actually felt they were kind of big. She made hers on the big side and I felt they were kind of big, so I actually on the next one I went down a scoop size and I felt that was a better size for what I was going for. So I'm just putting them on the cookie sheet and then I'm going to bake them off and let them cool a little bit while I'm making the icing for the top. This is not a sweet cookie, the actual cookie part, because you do put an icing on it and that's where most of your sweets going to come from. She said you can't eat them just like that, and I did try one and they were pretty good without the icing, but they were better with the icing, we felt. And this is the first batch that has come out and I'm just putting them on a cooling rack and let them cool before I make the icing. So here it goes. I melted my butter and I put my brown sugar in there and kind of melted down my brown sugar, just dissolved my brown sugar before I added in my vanilla and icing sugar into this mix. And I did put it in the microwave for about 10 more seconds just to make sure my brown sugar was dissolved and didn't cause a problem later. So in goes my icing sugar and I'm going to mix this up and I'm going to thin it out a little bit with some milk and vanilla. Now this is where I made my second mistake. I was chasing, and she said not the icing consistency I was looking for. I added too much milk, then I had to add more icing sugar. It was just a mess, back and forth, back and forth. Well, actually not back and forth, just kept adding icing sugar because it was too liquidy, I thought, to go on to the top of the cookies. So I actually ended up taking some of the mix out in order to get the consistency I wanted before I added more icing sugar. And I'll just use that for, cinnamon rolls or something later on in the week. So this is the consistency I ended up with, and I'm going to ice my cookies with it and give them a try. Now, you know what this reminded me of? An Amish cookie I had probably about, 6, 7, 8 years ago maybe. It is reminiscent of this cookie I had from an Amish bake shop. That's what it reminded me of. And I will make this again, but I definitely will be trying my hardest not to make the same mistake I made with the icing and the pumpkin in the beginning. But here I am icing the cookies, and they were pretty simple. And the icing, she said, does harden up, and mine did harden up enough to where I could stack them into a container. Not that they lasted very long anyway in my household. They were gone within a couple of days. So, yeah, this was our sweet treat for week number 2. So this is what the pumpkin cookies turned out to be, the finished product with the icing. I will leave the ingredients and the recipe in the description box below. We did have the recipe because we don't really need this much sweets in the house at one time, and they were delicious. Things I need to use up a little bit more is my broth. We have quite a bit down there, and I specifically made this one for drinking. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a cup of chicken broth, in this case, with my lunch today. It looks like in my mug, nice and dark, and it tastes delicious. And I'm not just saying that because I made it, but it does. And it will help keep me warm and full until dinner. So for tonight's dinner, I took out some frozen pork chops and I'm just defrosting them in some water on the counter. So I don't know about you, but I like to marinate my meats. I washed these chops, dried them off, and then I marinated them in a zesty Italian dressing. And with that, I'm gonna do some potatoes and some veg. And on the side is my ever-present jar of my vegetable water. So let's get this started. A quick weekday dinner from my home can, freezer, and pantry staples. So my home canned tomatoes are the one item I do not use my liquid off of because of all the starch that is in it. So I'm actually going to rinse these really well before I put them into my pot to get warming through because they're already cooked. And I'm going to add some of my vegetable water into my potatoes to get them warming through before I mash them and make mashed potatoes with them tonight. So while my potatoes are warming through, I'm going to get started on my pork chops. So I have a home canned jar of my caramelized onions, and then I'm going to add a jar of my peppers from last year's garden. Actually, this might have been the year before. I'm going to just fry them up a little bit and get them started before I add in my pork chops to the same frying pan. So my potatoes are now warmed through, and I did drain off any excess liquid that was still left in there once they have warmed through. And this is what I do. I actually mash them before I add any butters or milks or sour cream or anything like that. I mash my potatoes down really good. I find I get them more creamier than if I was to add, say, my milk and my butter and then try and mash everything together at that point. So once I've got it to pretty well mashed up, this is when I add any butters or sour cream, milk, seasoning. So here I've got my sour cream, my milk, some chives, my seasonings, and butter. And I'm going to get all that in here. And then I'm going to mash it all up again, making sure I get everything incorporated and throughout my potatoes. So this was the dinner. It's mashed potatoes, pork chops with onions and peppers, and some French style green beans. Delicious. So for this night's dinner, I want it quicker and easier. So it's grilled cheese and tomato soup it is. I have some cheese left over here from Christmas. I have some Kobe Jack, and then I have these strained tomatoes, which I'm going to make into tomato soup. And basically I just put that into a pot. I am going to add my spices in here, whatever spices I want, and I am going to rinse out my jar with my ever-present vegetable water. Yep. It appears every time. So I just rinsed out my jar of the rest of that strained tomatoes with that vegetable water. Adds flavor. And I did add my spices. Whatever spices you like, add it in. I did add a pinch of sugar because I'm using tomato products, and I always do. And what I didn't show, I added some frozen bouillon cubes, which is basically my broth that didn't fit into a jar. I froze it and I call them bouillon cubes, and I dropped a couple of those in there, and I believe they were chicken. They might have been beef. I'm not sure because I didn't label the bag, but I knew what they were. So into my tomato soup they went. So while that's warming up, I'm going to get my grilled cheese made, and I'm using hummus on the inside because it's what I have, and it is a roasted red pepper, roasted red pepper and garlic hummus that I bought from the store, and I'm going to use it up because it was in my fridge and I don't want it to go bad. So I'm going to add my cheese from my advent calendar from Christmas that we had left. It wasn't the greatest, so we didn't really keep up with that. We just ate the chocolates from the kids ones, so yeah, that's what we ate. And I'm going to put some Kobe Jack in there, and and that's going to be it for the grilled cheese portion. The cheese is mustard Gouda and an aged Gouda I think I picked out, and just some Kobe Jack shredded that I picked up from Save-A-Lot a couple of weeks ago that I'm working through. I put some in the freezer and I had a couple left in the fridge. So into a frying pan they go, and yeah, this couldn't have been easier. I mean, I thought the rest of the week was easy, but this night I just needed quick and easy and filling and good. So that's what I made. Tomato soup and grilled cheese. You can't get any more classic and better than that. So here it is, grilled cheese and tomato soup. I did sprinkle some of that Kobe Jack over it with some sour cream, and it was good. Everybody enjoyed it. The grilled cheese was made on the no-knead sandwich loaf that I made, and they were large enough to share. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified when I upload videos. Thank you very much and have a great day.